Param Vijayate Śrī Kṛṣṇa Sankirtanam, total world victory of Hare Krishna. Welcome back to another Bhagavad-gītā class with your host, Prahlad. Today we are doing Bhagavad-gītā 435. Let's get straight into it. Boom. Jñātvā na punar moham, evam yāsyasi pāṇḍava, evam yāsyasi pāṇḍava, yena bhūtāny aśeṣāṇi drakṣyasy atho mayi which jñātvā knowing, na never, punar again, moham illusion, evam like this, yāsyasi you shall go, Pāṇḍava O son of Pāṇḍu, yena by which, bhūtāni all living entities, aśeṣāṇi totally, drakṣyasy you will see, ātmany in the supreme soul, atho or in other words, mayi in me. And when you have thus learned the truth, you will know that all living beings are but part of me, and that they are me and are mine. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa. The sense of a separated existence from Krishna is called māyā. My, not ya, this. Some think that we have nothing to do with Krishna, and that Krishna is only a great historical personality, and that the Absolute is the impersonal Brahman. Factually, as it is stated in the Bhagavad-gītā, this impersonal Brahman is the personal effulgence of Krishna. Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of everything. In the Brahma-saṁhitā, it is clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. This thought is material in nature. We have experience in the material world that a thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses its original identity. But the Mayavadi philosophers fail to understand that Absolute means that 1 plus 1 is equal to 1, and that 1 minus 1 is also equal to 1. This is the case in the Absolute world. For want of sufficient knowledge in the Absolute science, we are now covered with illusion. For want of sufficient knowledge in the Absolute science, we are now covered with illusion, and therefore think that we are separate from Krishna. Although we are separated parts of Krishna, we are nevertheless not different from him. The bodily difference of the living entities is Maya, or not actual fact. We are all meant to satisfy Krishna. By Maya alone, Arjuna thought that this temporary bodily relationship with his kinsman was more important than his internal spiritual relationship with Krishna. The whole teaching of the Gita is targeted towards this end, that a living being as his eternal servitor cannot be separated from Krishna, and his sense of being an identity apart from Krishna is called Maya. The living entities, as separate parts and parcels of the Supreme, have a purpose to fulfill. Having forgotten that purpose, since time immemorial, they are situated in different bodies, as men, animal, demigods, etc. Such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. But when one is engaged in the transcendental service through Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. One can acquire such pure knowledge only from the bona fide spiritual master, and thereby avoid the delusion that the living entity is equal to Krishna. Perfect knowledge is that the Supreme Soul, Krishna, is the supreme shelter of all living entities. And giving up such shelter, the living entities are diluted by the material energy, imagining themselves to have separate identities. Thus, under different standards of material identity, they become forgetful of Krishna. When, however, such deluded living entities become situated in Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that they are on the path of liberation, as confirmed in the Bhagavad-gītā. Muktir haitva yatta rupam svarupena vaivasya titi. Liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as the eternal servitor of Krishna consciousness. Now, looking at the differences. There are a few. The translation is being basically rewritten totally. Let's see. 33. There is no comment about that. Interesting. So in the original, and when you have thus learned the truth, you will know that all living beings are but part of me, and they are me, in me, and, and they are in me, and are mine, has been changed to, having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. By this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, they are mine. I wonder what the word for word says, because that's a bit, no, sorry, I accidentally changed the size. Yeah, that should be right. What does the word for word say? Interesting. Which knowing never again illusion like this you shall go, O son of Pāṇḍu, by which all living entities total you will see in the Supreme Soul, or in other words, in me. If it changes to this, it's like, oh, yeah, there's no justification for that, and it is not like that in the. Wait a minute. Is it the wrong? No. By knowing real knowledge from the self-realized soul, you no longer have the illusion like this, because by that knowledge, you know that all living entities are only parts and parcels of the Supreme. In other words, mine. In other words, they are mine. Hold on a minute. That's interesting. So it is going technically closer to the manuscript. And the manuscript here has like all these edits here, and it's completely different, but in the original edition, it is quite different. Okay. Yeah, I'd want to know why the original edition is so much different from the manuscript, because I think that's the first time it's been like that. Interesting. Does it change the meaning? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. So the second change, the sense of a separate existence has been changed to the sense of an existence separate from Krishna. I think that's sort of a grammatical change. I don't think that changes the meaning at all. Sense of existence separate from Krishna. The sense of a separated existence. I do prefer a sense of a separated existence, because it has more emphasis. The sense of separated and then existence. This one is the sense of existence separate. It changes the subject of the thing that it's talking about a bit. Here they've decapitalized absolute. I think here when it's talking about to understand that absolute means absolute, also referring to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his impersonal Brahman, personal effulgence, all in one. I think that's what it means when it's talking about absolutes. Whereas here they've decapitalized it. Is there anything in the separate? Nope, no comment. It has been changed. In later printings, targeted is being corrected to targeted. Different change. The Gita is targeted with 2 T's. I'm not exactly sure that's how you spell targeted, but yeah, targeted with 1 T. That a living being as his eternal servitor, as Krishna's eternal servitor. What does it say in the original manuscripts? I'm not sure about these changes. These changes are just random schmandom. Okay, second paragraph, sort of towards the top. The whole teaching of the Gita. It just says as eternal servitor. Then a little his has been added there by Hayagriva. So technically it's a Hayagriva edit change. Not sure if it's warranted. Does make sense, when anything's capitalized. Describing, you're calling to something, and it's not the beginning of a sentence, it's talking about Krishna. So we already knew that. You need to double down. Oh, I'm there. Anyway, they've added a quote to the specific Bhagavatam verse. I noticed that change has been done a few times here and there. Whenever there's, let me deselect it. Whatever. Oh, it's not selected. It's showing that. Never mind. I guess that's to give people reference to the other Vedic literatures to where this is talking about, instead of them having to. I guess back in the day it would be you'd have to scour through the Bhagavatam looking for that, or ask someone who would know. But now you can just Google it. But I guess at some point having this specific quote would have been useful. Liberation means to be situated in one's constituted position as the eternal servitor, as an eternal servitor. Interesting. This is following a trend of changes that I've mentioned and I've seen before, where it's changed the sort of directness of what it's saying. Position as you are the eternal servitor, or you're an eternal servitor, meaning there are many. Whereas when you say you're the eternal servitor, I guess that creates more of a personal relationship. Get my drift? When you say you are the personalist servitor, it doesn't explicitly say there are others. So yeah, that's it for the changes. So it's interesting change. A bunch of changes, and none of them are commented. Yay! Talking about the actual purport, I'll just there we go. That seems better. It feels better to me. That's how I read it before. Yeah, it's really well written purport. It was a enjoyable read. All the purports are an enjoyable read, but this one is especially enjoyable. um yeah, it's yeah, the whole purport is talking about uh you as a individual are still an individual, but a part of Krishna, the Supreme, the impersonal Brahman, which is his effulgence. When I first read effulgence, I read it as effluence, which effluent, which is like a place where you dump stool. You have an effluent pond. So I thought that was weird, but it's effulgence. um yeah, and it does say the oh man. The whole teaching of the Gita is targeted towards this end, that a living being, his eternal servitor, cannot be separate from Krishna. Yeah, so the whole Gita is talking about, well, the whole Gita is pointing towards that. The whole dilemma is that the whole Gita arose from the dilemma of Arjuna not wanting to kill his kinsman. Um, yeah, and he wasn't thinking about his relationship with Krishna. He wasn't thinking about the other's relationship with Krishna, even though everything is basically Krishna. They're all parts and parcels. I don't think it says that specifically, but I like that phrase, parts and parcels. Yeah. And the sense of being separate from Krishna is Maya, which I only recently found out the meaning of Maya. My, not ya, this. This is not this. It's interesting. It's like, there's a slang. It's like, that's not it. That's not it. It being referring to like the legitimate thing. It's sort of hard to explain slang. See if I can. That's not it. Slang. Okay, Urban Dictionary is the best place to go to. Anyway, I say it sometimes, but yeah. Talking about not to this. What is it? Yeah, not to this. This being reality or whatever. Not this. Yeah, it's not real. What else? Śrī Prabhupada is doing this in multiple purports and verses, but he's arguing against he's presenting his arguments against the people who would argue against his purports. Talking about the Mayavadi philosophy. Yeah, so he addresses the criticism that he could. Criticism. He addresses what people could say in the purport. Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. It's thought is material in nature. And I guess, most thoughts almost all thoughts would be material in nature because we're in the material world. We're surrounded by Maya. It's everywhere. Yeah, you're basically born with the experience that you were separate from Krishna until you gain this knowledge from the Bhagavad-gītā and a bona fide spiritual master. Yeah. Okay, thinking about a contemporary application. I always used to say contemporary application, and no one called me out on that. Contemporary is not a word. Let's see. Contemporary. Contemporary is not a word. It's contemporary. What is it? Batman. Yeah, contemporary application. Yeah, no, for want of sufficient knowledge in absolute science, we're now covered in illusion. It's interesting. Therefore, we think we're separate from Krishna. I think that's talking about, sort of traditional science and the pursuit of, finding creation. What are we created from? Yeah. But thinking about a contemporary application, this is always the hardest segment. Even if I've had time to think about it, it's like, what is a contemporary application? Here we go. But when one is engaged in transcendental service through Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. Doing the Krishna conscious service, the yagyas, the chanting, prasadam distribution, and Lord Chaitanya was generous enough to give us the kirtan yagya, which is easy peasy, lemon squeezy to do. And so there'll be kirtans going around all the time. Speaking of kirtans, I am sort of off topic, but I'm going to be traveling to Australia next year on a bus tour. So there'll be a whole bunch of kirtan with some other people. I get to do showing that. Maybe there'll be some harinams, but we'll see. It'll be exciting. But it's a whole Krishna conscious transcendental service, and we're doing a play. Guess who's playing Krishna? Prahlad. Yeah, I got the main role. And there's a lot of lines. I was reading through it. It's quite in depth. So October, November, December. Yeah. I had about 2 months to practice, so it's going to be intense. But I'll be happy to not imitate, but represent Krishna. That'll be my transcendental service. But yeah. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. The purport basically speaks for itself. All purports speak for itself. But there's always some sort of realizations that you get. Okay, going on to the Tedeo part. This is a bit zoomed out. That didn't help. That went a bit too far. Is it? Yeah. That is good enough. So, my scroll wheel on this Mac really, it's so fickle. Like, oh yeah, a little scroll and then there's a big jump for some reason, like that. I didn't even, and it's not the mouse because I've tried it with other computers. It's me ranting. Anyway. Ka ore hi me o te aroa te atawhai te awhina te whakapau kaha te whakapau wairua ka whai e te rongo ka whai hoki ai te tino mataru maturanga kai fai ka fai te maramatanga ka fa kakaha ka fa kakaha hoki te aroha me te whakapono. Ooh, I think I pronounced that very well, very well. Word for word breakdown. Kahore, there is not. He, a particle indicating the subject. Maya, thing or matter. Ote, of the. Arawa, love. Te, the definite article. This dumbass scroll wheel. No, I scrolled down. Why are you scrolling up? Oh, this is gonna piss me off. Okay, I'm gonna use this thing. I just wanna. Okay, sorry for confusing any of the people reading it, but te, the definite article. Atho, compassion or mercy. Afina, help or assistance. Afina, yeah. Fakapua, fakapau, strengthen. Kaha, strength. Wairua, spiritual. Ka, marks the action or beginning of a sentence. Fai, follow or pursue. E, yeah, preposition indicating the action. I always mess up when it's just a single I, because it sounds like I, so it's a I. I, I. Like it's a preposition indicating action. However, I'm getting it right. Te, the definite article. Rongo, peace. Hoki, also. Tino, true or genuine. Mataruanga, knowledge. Maramatanga, wisdom or understanding. Fakakaha, strengthen. It's another word for strengthen. Arawa, love. Me and te, the definitive article. Whakapono, faith or trust. I just realized I'm holding the microphone at a weird angle. Anyway, going back to the purports to finish us off. Jñātvā na purna moham evam yāsyasi pāṇḍava yena bhūtāny aśesāṇi drakṣyasy ātmany atho mani. And when you have thus learned the truth, you will know that all living beings are but part of me, and that they are in me and are mine. Thank you guys for tuning in to another Bhagavad-gītā class. If you watched live, thank you. We got a few comments from Isabella. You smell. Get wrecked. Thank you for the words of encouragement. If you enjoy any of the content that we do here, give it a like, give it a share, tag your friends. I will be back next week to do the final verses of some of the final verses of chapter 4, heading into chapter 5. Been hyping up chapter 5 for a while. But if you watched live, thank you. If you're watching this afterwards, thank you also. Good morning, good evening, or good night. It is a good night for me. And Param Vijayate Śrī Kṛṣṇa Sankirtanam. I should look at the camera, not myself. Total world victory of Śrī Kṛṣṇa. Haribol.